Hi, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. How are you? Yeah, Mark, I see what you're saying there. Let me see if I can pull you up. Um, geez, I can't pull you up, Mark. Give me 1 second. Instagram is giving me an issue. I will get back to you because I see you're saying, let's see what Tamara has to say. I will get back to you. Guys, it's good to see you. Welcome back tonight. Um, let me get Instagram on board and then we can go ahead and talk about this topic. This topic always brings up something for me, personally, professionally, and I'm sure it's going to bring up some things for you as well. Yesterday's live chat was unbelievable, and all of the responses that I got, some of the comments on the channel, I got a ton of emails, some phone calls. There were a lot of people that related to yesterday's conversation. I was pretty shocked. I didn't think that yesterday's conversation would hit so many as it did. But I think a few of you said to me, there's literally 300 people watching, over 300 people watching yesterday. That conversation just triggered a lot of people. So in today's live chat, I have a feeling that today's live chat is going to trigger some people as well. So let me welcome Instagram. So I'm going to say, hello, friends. Welcome to my live chat. I'm going to say, if you would like a community experience, hold on, guys, bear with me. Experience, come join me on my channel. Okay. All right. They are good over there. Let's go ahead and jump in, guys. Let me look at Mark really quickly. Mark says, I've seen more. Welcome, by the way, Mark. Good to see you back tonight. Mark says, I've seen more of the ignoring boundaries from male narcissists. Let's see what Tamara has to say. I've known many people who have had some narc behaviors, but only a few who I think were clinical narcs. Yeah, that's a good point. You may have some people who seem to meet the narcissistic criteria. They may not necessarily be narcissistic in terms of clinical narcissist, but they come off as a narcissist, right? When it comes to pushing of boundaries, there is a little bit of data that supports that more males will push boundaries. They tend to do it in an aggressive way, more so than females. Females will push boundaries primarily to get their way. They will do it in more of a passive aggressive way. They may use their emotions or their sex appeal or their intelligence to kind of push the boundary. Men, on the other hand, they will use money, power, prestige, social influence, or some kind of social power to push the boundary. They may also, according to some data on this, I'll make sure I post it in the description box for you as well. They may also attempt to push the boundary socially by using whatever power they have that way. Like, whatever their social entourage is, whatever their social reputation is, they will try to push the boundary, utilizing their social power in that way. So we may get into that a little bit as we go along. All right, guys, let's jump in. Boundaries. Let's start the conversation. Let's start the conversation by talking about healthy boundaries. I'll start it that way. Because as we go down the rabbit hole of what negative relationships are, what they look like, family boundaries, lack of family boundaries, we're not going to want to come back and talk about healthy boundaries. So let me just kind of hit a few points with healthy boundaries. We all know, right, that healthy boundaries are the way to go. Healthy boundaries, according to research, is this. It's boundaries that are recognized, boundaries that are negotiated, boundaries that are repaired when something has happened. So they are boundaries that are recognized. I recognize that you don't want me to do A, B, and C, right? I recognize that, sorry guys, I'm looking for my lotion. I don't have it here. I recognize that you don't like when I do A, B, and C. I recognize that you seem a little uptight when I talk about those people over there. So you know what? Maybe that's a boundary I need to respect. So I'm not going to say anything about it. Forgive me for bringing it up. Boom. Right? Recognition. The other piece of healthy boundaries is negotiation. I may not understand why you don't want to talk about the neighbors every morning while you're trying to have your coffee. And I understand that you really don't want to talk about work either in the morning while you're trying to wake up and get ready for the day. So you know what? Maybe we can talk about what's going on after work, right? So let's say you and your spouse are trying to talk about the neighbors, the work day. Maybe your spouse just isn't a morning person, doesn't want to talk to you about that in the morning. How can you renegotiate that, right? A healthy boundary says, you know what? I recognize this is not a good time. Let's renegotiate, right? And then repair. So you do something wrong, you push a boundary. An example of pushing a boundary may be your mom. My mom did this to my older brother, by the way, so many years ago. He might have been like 22, 23, and his girlfriend at the time was like 20, 21. And they had just moved she just moved out of her mom's home, and he just moved out of mom's home. And, to me, they stepped out too young and had a baby. And so my mom, not knowing that maybe this is not what they wanted her to do, she went over to their home at like 8:45 a.m., 9 a.m. in the morning, because she was out running errands. So she stopped over, and my brother was livid. He did not want my mom there at almost 9 a.m. in the morning. And he and my mom got into the spat, and he yelled at my mom and said, "Go home." And my mom didn't talk to him for probably months or weeks, because it was so hurtful to her. But she didn't understand at the time that you've got two young people who stepped out a little too soon. They had a baby before they were 23 years old, and they're trying to be grown-ups. And here you are going over to their house at 9 a.m. in the morning, offering to just, watch the baby or help them with their day. And they didn't want that kind of help at the time. So, unfortunately, my mom had to repair the boundary. And how did she repair the boundary? Well, she talked to my brother, she apologized in the way that she knew how, and things were repaired a little bit over time. So healthy boundaries are recognized, negotiated, and repaired. There's two things I want you guys to think about. I'm going to put this in the chat box. All right. One is boundary crossing versus boundary violation. There's a difference. What's a boundary crossing? Boundary crossing is when you know that something is likely going to be a problem, but you test the waters anyway. Right? Right? I know I probably shouldn't ask my therapist if she's married. I probably shouldn't ask my therapist if he's married or if he's dating. But I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to hint around. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hint around. Some of us are looking for spouses, and we're kind of trying to move on and, have a family. I'm sure you're trying to have a family too, right? And your therapist may pick up that you're kind of fishing for information, right? And your therapist may say, "Are you asking me if I'm married, or are you asking me if I'm dating?" And you may say, "Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that at all." Right? So there may be some fishing behavior with boundary crossing. What about a boundary violation? Right? So a boundary violation is when something is absolutely out of the question and inappropriate, but you do it anyway. Right? You have a narcissistic mother. Your narcissistic mother, doesn't want you to get married to a particular person. And right at the wedding, you decided, I don't want my mother at the wedding. She's not going to be at the wedding because she's a narcissist and she's going to try to control everything. She's not going to get an invitation. She doesn't like my spouse. And so I don't want her there. Right? What's a boundary? What's a boundary violation in that situation? Mom shows up at the wedding anyway. Right? You say, I don't want you there. You didn't get an invitation. You don't like my spouse to be. What do I look like inviting you to my wedding? What happens? You are very close to saying I do. And your mom is sitting in the back of the church, right? So she's already shown up. It's a boundary violation. A boundary violation says, I care absolutely nothing about your boundary. I know it. I've heard it. I've seen it. I've digested it. I don't care. So I'm going to put that in the chat box. So a boundary violation is, I understand it. I see it. I hear it. Right? I respect to a certain extent what you want, but I don't care. That's a boundary violation. I see it, I hear it, I know what you want, and I respect it to a certain extent, but I don't care. I don't care. And when there's a boundary violation, right? Boundary violations are not misunderstandings. They're not mistakes. They're not misunderstandings. They are totally disregarded parts of your own personal space, right? So boundaries are denied, ignored, minimized, right? Punished and rewritten. Can you believe that? That's scary. We actually, I'm going to say in psychology, we call this chronic boundary violation. And this is when that family member constantly violates your boundaries and they care absolutely nothing about what you want. That is not an accident. It's not an accident. It's not a misunderstanding. It's not a misinterpretation of what was said or what was asked of them. It is strictly a boundary violation. It is a denied boundary. It is a mocked boundary. It's a punished boundary. And it's also a rewritten boundary. What's a punished boundary? Right? What's a punished boundary? You put up a boundary with a family member. So let's say you go no contact. You put up this boundary with a family member and you say, you know what? I'm going no contact. Don't call me. Don't email me. Don't send me letters. Don't invite me to parties, birthdays, celebrations, holidays, nothing. I want my space. I've got to think. I need clarity of mind. I don't want to be hurt anymore. I don't want to be manipulated anymore. I need space. Right? There you've put your boundary very clear, very straightforward. There's no way it could be misunderstood, right? Your boundary is firm. But a family member who is unhealthy, dysfunctional, or toxic and cares nothing about what you're asking them to do, which is very respectable, right? You're asking them to respect you and they refuse to do it. That is a boundary violation. They hear you, they see you, they understand it. They don't care. I think sometimes we kind of miss that. You know, sometimes it's so blatantly, I don't care anything about what you're asking. It's so blatant that sometimes we kind of fall back into this mindset of, maybe they didn't understand me. Maybe they didn't hear me. Maybe I need to repeat it again, you know? Or sometimes, you know, you may think to yourself, oh, maybe they didn't look at the text message good enough. Maybe I need to like email them. Maybe I need to call them. And the reality is this, you don't need to call them. You don't need to email them. You've sent it in a text message. It's good enough. They're engaging in a total disregard of your boundary. And in that sense, it's a boundary violation. You are getting what's called punishment of your boundary. And when you're being punished for your boundary, here's what's happening. A punished boundary is, it's a total disregard for what you have requested, right? And the person not only minimizes you and ignores you. So I'm going to put in here, they minimize and ignore you, right? They also mock you. So they mock you, right? So that's how you know your boundaries kind of you're being punished for your boundary. They don't take it seriously. An example of this could be, let's say, for example, you don't get along with your sibling. Your sibling's a narcissistic kind of character. You can't say she's clinically narcissistic, but she's very self-centered. She's very arrogant. She's self-consumed. She's egotistical. She's all about herself, right? So you don't get along with your sister. You ask your sister before her upcoming birthday, don't call me to invite me to this bash that you're preparing. I don't want to be a part of your birthday. You've hurt me. You had an affair with my husband. You're going all around the family bragging about it. I don't want to talk to you. Let's say, for example, your sister says, okay, fine. I'm not going to invite you, right? But here's what she does do. And this is how she punishes you for your boundary. Now, what she's doing is going around to every family member and she's talking about you behind your back. She's mocking your boundary, right? Now she's got family members laughing at you and scoffing and minimizing you as well, telling you that you are silly for feeling like you feel. Right? Now you've got other family members telling you that you need to grow up, that you're rather immature. You need to get over that. That happened so many years ago, right? How dare you keep holding on to that? Everybody's older now, right? So your sister kind of creates this relational bind that sucks you in. And everybody all around you is now mocking you and making this a joke, right? So it's a punished boundary. It's a boundary you've set in place, but and thankfully she's in a way abiding by that boundary, but she's also creating a scenario where she may not be doing anything directly to you, but she is chatting, and that's causing every family member around you to laugh, to mock, to minimize, to judge you, to criticize you. The list goes on, right? So that is what we call a punished boundary. It's a very immature thing. Now, boundaries are often ignored. According to research on dysfunctional boundaries and a family dynamic, boundaries are ignored to maintain emotional control. If I can kind of flatten your boundaries and make them less important, if I can make them insignificant, then I can remain in control, right? Think of a person who's driving a bus. They're in control until they come out from behind the wheel, right? And so if you have a person in this dysfunctional family dynamic who sits at the top, right? They're at the top of the hierarchy. Maybe it's mom and dad. Maybe it's grandpap and grandma, right? Maybe it's your wealthy brother. Maybe it's your famous cousin. Whoever is at the top in the family, in the hierarchy, they are in control. They are driving the bus. And no matter what you try to do to maintain a healthy boundary for your life, your mind, your emotions, whatever, it's not going to matter, because that person who's at the top has to remain in control. And how do they do that? They ignore your boundaries. You answer to them, they don't answer to you, right? So research says when it comes to dysfunctional family dynamics and boundaries, that if boundaries can be ignored, that is a good thing for dysfunctional dynamics, because it helps them to maintain emotional control. And that's how boundaries are rewritten. Boundaries that are rewritten are twisted and skewed. I'll put that in the chat box. So boundaries that are rewritten are skewed and twisted. And how does that go? Well, let's say, for example, you say to your grandma, I don't want you telling my brother everything that happens in my life. I share my private things with you, but that doesn't mean, Grandma, I want you to take and share it with my brother. Grandma may say, okay, I won't share it with your brother. But here's where she twists it. Okay, this is where she rewrites your boundary. She may not share it with your brother, but she definitely shares it with your sister. You may say, Grandma, I asked you not to share my personal business. No, you didn't. You may say, yes, I did. And what is Grandma going to say? No, you didn't. You told me not. You said you didn't want me to share it with your brother. You never said I couldn't share it with your sister, right? It's so frustrating, right? I had a case like this a couple years ago where where mom would come to therapy, tell me things about dad, right? Dad would come to therapy, tell me things about mom, and then they would both ask me not to talk to the child about it. And the child was 17 and a half, but they would say, don't talk to the child about it. Okay, I won't say anything. But then guess who would talk to the child about it? Mom or dad. And they have me so mixed up in the middle, you know? So this is kind of like um, a big ball of confusion, right? And usually dysfunctional families, dysfunctional toxic dynamics entertain this kind of nonsense, right? Well, you've asked grandma, please don't tell my business to my brother. For her, that left the door open, right? It left the door open for her to be able to talk to your sister then. And if you ask her not to talk to your sister, then she may go and talk to your mom instead. Because in her twisted mind, she needs you to tell her to stop talking, period. Then she'll stop. So she's rewritten your boundary. And that is just unbelievable, right? Vanna Chavez, can I say that? Welcome to the channel. It's so good to see you tonight. She says, or I think, yeah. Can I say she? It's Vanna, 6th cycle. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Very good point. Very, very good point. I agree. Tara, oh, good to see you. Welcome to tonight's live chats. This sad, shaking my head. Yep. It's frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Yes, Sarah Kinston says, good to see you, my friend. Glad to see you back tonight. Sarah Kinston says, that's ridiculous, isn't it? Isn't it? Vanna says, thank you. Happy to be here. You're welcome. So good to see you. Yeah, so glad that you're here. Good to see you again, Jonathan. Welcome back tonight. Yeah, isn't that ridiculous? So that's a rewritten boundary. I hate it. Now, boundary ignoring people. Here's what research says about those people. That's actually a term. Boundary ignoring people. These kind of individuals tend to show moral superiority. What is that? Moral superiority. I'm going to put this in here. So boundary ignoring people tend to show moral superiority. Okay. What is moral superiority? I am better than you because I believe A, B, and C. So that puts me here. That puts you here. So I'm better than you. Moral superiority. It's the I'm better than you because of my beliefs. There you go. Moral superiority. Boundary ignoring people, they also have a lot of psychological entitlement. Psychological entitlement. What is that? I deserve to be listened to. How dare you put a boundary down? I deserve to get everything I want, right? So I deserve to get everything I want. What would be a more common kind of a psychological entitlement? Could be, let's say someone feels like I may have been speeding, right? I may have been going 80 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone, but I deserve to not get a speeding ticket because I dropped my speed when I saw the police. I was in a hurry. So I deserve to not get a speeding ticket, right? Because I dropped my speed when I saw the police sitting over there. I was going 80 miles per hour in a 35, but I still don't deserve to get a speeding ticket because I pay my taxes, right? There are people like that. I've also seen people who have this psychological entitlement of, you have about a whole shopping cart full of stuff. I only have 2 items. Can I get in front of you? I saw that one time. I no longer go into stores anymore. That's how much I just don't like it. But the last time, probably was last year sometime, I went into a store and I'm standing in line to pick up an order. and somebody in front of me had like maybe 2 items. They had 2 shirts, let's say, and the person in front of them had a whole shopping cart full of clothes. And it was an older woman. The younger woman had 2 shirts, and she says to the woman in front of her, and I was with my brother. My brother was somewhere over in the corner doing something. But when he finally came to get in line with me, I looked at him and I said, "You just missed the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life." But the younger woman says to the older woman in front of her with a whole cart full of things, she's like, "Excuse me, miss, you have a whole cart full of things. Is it okay if I get in front of you?" And the older woman's looking like, did this lady just ask me that? And I'm just standing behind her like, oh my God, did she just say that? And my reaction was total shock, right? Because while I understand the logic in that, I get that. This poor lady just got done emptying her cart out, right? So she's been standing in line a while and she's putting everything on the belt, right? And she's waiting for the woman in front of her to get done. And while she's waiting, she's putting all her things up on the belt. That doesn't mean you take this opportunity to ask, but she did. And the older woman was gracious enough to say, absolutely, you can get in front of me. But for me, that was a form of psychological entitlement. The entitlement was, I deserve to be in front of you because you've got a lot of stuff and I don't want to have to wait. Right. And it came off as polite. Excuse me, ma'am, do you mind if I get in front of you? I only have 2 things, right? Why would you get upset with somebody who's addressing you in a kind way, right? But if you take a step back and not hear how she's addressing you, it comes off as psychologically entitled, right? The other piece of these individuals is what we call a lack of reciprocal empathy. They have a lack of reciprocal empathy. What's a lack of reciprocal empathy? It is they don't care about you when you care about them. There you go. There you go. So you show them empathy, they don't show you empathy. You show them empathy, they don't show you empathy, right? Society, people may show them empathy, they can't show other people empathy in return. So they lack reciprocal empathy. And that's really scary, right? They may be the kind of people who are the recipients of empathy, right? Other people can show them empathy. They don't have the capacity to reciprocate that. It can't go back and forth. It's not there. So boundary ignoring people show moral superiority. According to research, all research studies are in the description box for you, just so you can see them. They tend to show moral superiority. They tend to show psychological entitlement. The way that they see themselves is not okay. They tend to see themselves as way up here, and they lack moral reciprocity. So there is no reciprocal empathy at all, right? Their attitude is my needs override you at all times, right? So my needs override your needs. That's really the attitude all the time. My needs override yours. Another thing that you may see is I deserve to be heard. You be quiet. And what happens to you when you have a family member that is operating towards you in this kind of a mindset? Guess what psychology says? Guess what happens to you? It trains you. It trains you to stop resisting them. So let's say, for example, your parents, your mom or dad, is constantly ignoring and pushing up against your boundary. And you keep trying to reassert your boundary. They push your boundary again. You reassert. They push your boundary again. You try it one more time. They push your boundary again. Guess what's happening? That's a back and forth encounter, right? And guess what happens when you keep doing this back and forth ping pong game with your parents, it's something called learned helplessness, right? And learned helplessness, for those of you who may not know what it is, it's a process that can happen to you naturally when you are trying your very best to initiate something. And every time you attempt to initiate something, it is blocked, right? So learned helplessness, learned helplessness can happen when your attempts to initiate something fail every single time. Martin Seligman, social psychologist, he was behind a study done with rats, on learned helplessness. And here's what he found: that every time a rat would try to escape a cage, which the rat would go to the entrance, from my memory, I'll try to get either a video or a research study that you can kind of read, so that you can follow this a little bit closer, or read about it. It's probably going to make more sense to you if you read about it than me explaining it. But here's what happened in the research study. The rat in the cage, every time the rat would try to get to the exit door, the rat would be shocked, right? It sounds inhumane because technically it is, right? Every time the rat would go to the exit, he's trying to escape the cage, he would get shocked, right? And he would try it again. He'd get shocked again. Try it again, shocked again. Try it again, shocked again. At a certain point, the rat started becoming less enthusiastic about trying to escape. It's almost like he was becoming exhausted, and so the video that I saw many years ago in college on this particular study showed the rat would slowly go to the exit door and would wait a while. It almost looked like he's pondering, should I not? He tried it again, would get shocked, right? And after so many attempts to initiate escape, right, to no avail, if that's the right way to say that, he just failed every single time. Guess what he did? He stopped, totally stopped. What's the point? And went to a corner in his cage and sat there helplessly, tired and exhausted, because there was no, in his mind, and in his little mind as a rat, more than likely he was thinking, there's no sense in me continuing to try to escape if I'm going to continue to be shocked, if I'm going to continue to be blocked. So Martin Seligman said, you know what, there's some sense to this, and there is some logic. And I can guarantee you, humans go through this process as well. And so he came up with the term learned helplessness. And so we do kind of develop that when it comes to boundaries. Anything in life, right, that we can't seem to achieve right away, and there's so many barriers, right? We get tired. But when it comes to boundary ignoring people, no matter how many boundaries you keep trying to set up, right? If you have a family dynamic where your boundaries keep getting disregarded and ignored, you're going to get tired. You're going to feel exhausted, right? So boundary ignoring people understand, especially if they are cold, disregarding, psychologically entitled, right? If they are sociopaths, narcissists, they will keep wearing you down. They don't care. They're going to continue to wear you down until you become like that exhausted rat, And for narcissists and psychopaths, that may be the ultimate goal. They know if they wear you down, they can basically have the control, because you're going to be so tired, you're not going to be able to stand up to them, right? And so they're actually training you. They're training you. They're training you to stop resisting, stop trying to put up boundaries, because every time you put up boundaries, we're just going to reassert our power over you. This is the family dynamic. Every time you set a boundary, we're going to do something in return. And oh my goodness, if you have an entire family dynamic against you, so let's say you have mom, dad, and your siblings against you. Every time you try to assert a boundary, all your family members team up on you. At a certain point, you're going to get tired. So there is a training process in a dysfunctional family. And whether you're aware of it or not, you're being trained. It's a behavioral kind of a thing. They're training you over and over, over and over to stop resisting. Isn't that scary? All right, guys, I'm going to go to the chat box. When we come back from the chat box, I'm going to give you some common challenges that psychology says you're likely to go through if you have a boundary ignoring family dynamic. I also want to give you some specific boundaries that you may have tried to utilize in your life. Never knew what they were, though, but you've tried to use them and they've failed, right? And then I also, at the end of the live chat, I want to give you some insights on why is it so hard for your toxic and dysfunctional family dynamic to just respect and accept your boundary? Why is it so hard for them? They are actually going through a shift when you set up a boundary. And that's one of the reasons why they don't like your boundary, because you're forcing them to adjust to something they don't want to adjust to. So I'm going to highlight that as well. All right, guys. Okay, let's go to the chat box. Captain, a commenter, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. It's so good to see you back tonight. That's a great question. Captain commenter says, can boundaries be abused? Yes, they can. Yes. Can boundaries be abused? 100%. Yes. Let me think about this for a second. So, give me an example. Give me an example, Captain Commenter, because if I give you an example, I may be going the wrong route, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So give me an example. But yes, boundaries can be abused. Yes, they can. If you give me an example, I will go ahead and tease that apart for you. Yeah. Angela, it's good to see you. I'll come back to you, Captain Commenter. Just give me an example. Angela, it's good to see you, my friend. Welcome back tonight. Angela says, I'm going to keep putting my walls up 1,000 times until my narcissistic family gets the message. I mean, I hope so. Let me also say, you may put your boundaries up 1,020 times. You may put it up 5,000 times and they still don't get it. So what you have to do is assert your boundary and be comfortable with it, right? And keep your boundary right where it is for however long, because a toxic and dysfunctional family dynamic, they may never be okay with your boundary. But if it's a boundary that you need and you know that it's a helpful boundary for your sanity, then I would permanently put the boundary in place. You know what I mean? Depending on what it is. And your family's just going to have to figure it out. You know? I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Y'all's Way, hello, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you tonight. Y'all's Way says, I just went no contact with my daughter and his siblings. There is no compromising with these people. Sometimes there isn't. The sad part about a dysfunctional family dynamic is if you try to compromise, especially after you've gone no contact, a family's just going to push up against you and say, how dare you try to go no contact with us? Who do you think you are? And like crabs in a barrel, right? They're going to try to get above you and pull you down, right? Because that is just who they are. It's a scary dynamic. Navigating those waters is very complex, you know? It's a very complex dynamic. I am just for the record, working on pulling together a resource that's going to be a free resource for you guys for 2026, where you can download the PDF. It'll show you the process of estrangement. What are the stages? What's no contact? What's low contact? You know, what's reuniting with family? What's the process? What do you do when you go no contact? What's the psychological barriers? All of that. So stay tuned for that. It will be available to you. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. I am There we go. Okay. I couldn't see you for a second. Bear with me. Ellie Wynn, it's good to see you, my friend. Welcome back tonight. Okay. Bear with me. Dr. Rightlife, I'm going to put your comment up here just for people to see. It's good to have you back, my friend. Welcome. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm hitting all the wrong buttons tonight. Axe to Edge, it's good to see you. And I'm so sorry, right? Nobody wants this. Nobody wants this. It's not a good dynamic, right? No, but it's good to see you. Welcome back. Lady Srita, it's always good to see you in the chat box. Welcome. I agree. I agree. Brandy Nuance, good to see you, my friend. Welcome back tonight. Kinta 1246, welcome back. I think I saw you yesterday, so welcome back. Swish Flame, it's good to see you. Welcome back, my friend. Swish Flame says calling it out in real time hasn't been super helpful so far. I understand. If you're saying you calling it out hasn't been helpful, I would very much agree with that. It isn't always a smart move to call things out. No. You have to determine what's worth you calling out, what's worth you highlighting, and what's worth you just being hush hush about, right? Jumby9, hello. Welcome to the channel. Can I say Rabbi Jewy? Can I just say Rabbi Jewy? Welcome back. I always have a hard time with your name. It's good to see you back tonight. Rabbi Jewy says the Milgram experiment is another good example of behavior modification. Yes, it is. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. Milgram experiment video. I'm going to post it. Here we go. I'm going to post it for you. That way you can have access. Okay. And for those of you, I just posted it. And for those of you on Instagram, I'm going to post it here for you. There you guys go. Authentically Jada. Hello. Welcome. I see you on Instagram there. And Love Wife, I also see you. And Klutz. Is it Klutz? Welcome. I see you guys there on Instagram. It's good to see you. Nope. Cancel. Okay, bear with me, guys, as I go through the chat box. I'm a little behind tonight. Queen Moses Soul. Hello, welcome to tonight's live chat. Queen Moses Soul says, it happened to me. They wore me down so bad. I lost a lot of money and opportunities because I was so beat down by mom first and family. Yeah, I understand. It's sad when you recognize after the fact, right, what they have done. It's only when, you know, you step out of that dynamic or after you've lost everything that you can look back and say, oh my God, I have really been taken advantage of here. I've lost something. I've lost my way. My road is blurry. It's nebulous. I can't really see. It's so sad what a family can do, right? And why do you guys think that a family can get away with so much? What do you guys think that is? I tend to believe that it's a societal responsibility because society has sold us the idea that family is everything. Family is everything when you have a good family, when you have a wonderful dynamic, when you have a loving family that's trying to work together to keep the bond, right? But family isn't everything exclusively, right? And so if you're running with the idea that family is everything and your family is against you or your family is unhealthy or your family is dragging you in the mud and you're holding on to that lie that family is everything, right? That's a problem. And that is exactly why family can drag you in the mud, right? And you, once you're finally at nothing, you know, you stand there and say, oh my God, how'd I get here? Well, because there's this false ideology that is a blanket statement across society And that blanket statement is family is everything. Not always. We have to know what that means within context, right? And that's a very sad thing. It's a very, very sad thing. Shauna Alina, hello, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you tonight. Shauna says, this has been my life with my mom and golden child brother. Yes, I understand. I totally understand. Yes. My friend Shmita, it's good to see you back, my friend. Welcome. My friend Shmita says, ick, being trained as a young child, it's so hard to even realize that's happening to you. Yes, absolutely. Family members train each other. Isn't that something? Family members train. It's a behavioral thing. And if one family member does something, another family member does something, another family member does something, it's behavioral science. Everybody's doing things in a family context and dynamic. And it has an impact on what the next person does, and the next person, and the next person. It's sad how behaviorism can impact an entire family dynamic, you know? Yeah. James Mitchell, it's always good to see you in a chat. Welcome back tonight. James Mitchell says, when someone is that persistent, I believe it's a spiritual stronghold. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it is. Yep. Sometimes it is. Sambuca Speaks. Hello. Welcome back tonight. Sambuca Speaks says, I feel like it should be learned helplessness because hope is snatched from us. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yes. I am her says, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you tonight. I am her says, training you to fail. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Sometimes it does feel like training you to fail, right? Equal Life, it's good to see you. Welcome back, my friend. Equal Life says, being trapped by an invisible cage. There is this line. And a song that goes, we still see ourselves through eyes of people that hate us. Ouch. Tell me what that song is, because that's a pretty deep line, right? Yeah. I like that. And it is like being trapped by an invisible cage. Absolutely. Absolutely. Annalise, it's good to see you back tonight. Welcome. Annalise asks the question, isn't learned helplessness the same as conditioning someone? It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's an approach to conditioning, 100%. Every time the rat is shocked, right? He's learning, he's being conditioned to learn that he's not going to escape. So he might as well go over in the corner and just give up, right? So yes, very much so. Very much so. Flower 2462. It's good to see you back tonight. Welcome. Okay. The Good Glow. It's good to see you. Welcome back. Bear with me, guys, as I get through some of the comments. I'm a little bit behind tonight. Kim Matthew, welcome back. Glad to see you. Sarah Kinston says, I learned about this study experiment in psychology class in college. Yeah. Yep. The learned helplessness study and the Milgram experiments, those are like psychology class topics, you know? So you're definitely going to hear that in psychology classes. Anime Girl, I just saw you. It's good to see you back tonight. Yeah, some of the things you guys say are just great. Goodness gracious. I wish I can get to all of these comments. Bear with me as I go through some of this. Lorfit, it's good to see you, my friend. Welcome back. Lorfit says, they also believe that they are always right and you are wrong. It feels that way. It feels that way. There's like a twinge of arrogance, right? That you are likely to see in them. And they often have like this this background kind of like rallying group that cheers them on, and it makes them feel like they are at the top. A lot of times, their psychological entitlement is the result of family members placing them at the top. I've seen that in family therapy sessions, and it's really difficult to see. Lil Johan, it's good to see you back, my friend. Welcome. Actually, Jovial, it's good to see you. Welcome back. Okay, I'm looking for comments, guys. This live chat has been so over full. And I love it so much. But guys, if you hear me quiet for a while, it's because I'm surfing through the chat box. I'm literally surfing, looking for comments. I'm going to welcome you. Is it you bold? Okay, I'm going to make this. I'm going to mess this up. You bold Ferdinand. Can I just call you bald? You bald. It's good to have you here. Welcome to the channel. Glad that you could join us live. It's good to have you. Okay. Yeah, Shauna says, I can never understand why you'd want to treat people this way. We're here for such a short time. That's such a wise comment. I very much agree. I don't get why you'd make it hard for anyone else. Awful. I very much agree. Very much agree. Very much agree. I think the answer to that is a little bit deeper than what we think, right? At face value, you would think people would want to love their children, be kind to everyone, make life easier, right? But I think life is a little more complicated than that, and there's various reasons as to why we have these kind of dark, evil souls that walk amongst us, and they create these kind of scenarios that makes life just really hard for all of us, So I think it's a wise kind of a comment here, but unfortunately, the answer to that is so difficult, It's so difficult. Yeah. Okay, just trying to get to some comments before we go back to the content. Rebecca Lynn, it's good to see you back tonight. Welcome. Rebecca Lynn says, once they recognize the boundary, they covertly cross them even more. I can't show any reaction at all, or it's so much worse. Yeah, sometimes you have to act like you don't see. My great grandmother, the one that I always quote, who gives me all the wisdom, she used to say to me all the time, you have to act a fool to catch a fool. Okay, so let me put that in the chat box. She used to say, you have to act a fool to catch a fool. And I'm literally going to put granny. Okay, I used to ask my mom all the time, Mom, what does that even mean? And my mom was like, well, ask Granny Sarah. And so I would ask my Granny Sarah, and she would say, well, here's what I mean by that. You don't want to always show a person what you know. You also don't want to also show them all of what you have in your hand. So you can show them little bits and pieces over time, or you can act like you don't see them at all. So sometimes you have to go along with them in order to catch them and what it is that they're trying to do behind your back, right? So you don't always show your full hand, or you don't always tell them what you know about them. You also don't always tell them what you suspect. Just go along, because in the long run, they're going to get caught anyway, right? So I always thought that was a wise thing. So you're right. You can't always show a reaction, or it can get worse. Yeah, sometimes you have to go along, right? Yeah. MS Journey of Life. It's good to have you back tonight. Welcome. Hopefully I got just about everybody and welcomed most of you. I think so. Did I welcome you, Captain? I think I welcomed you, Captain Commenter. I just want to be sure. Flower says gossiping families because no one communicates properly. Yeah, gossip is difficult, right? Yeah. I don't like gossiping within a family dynamic because wires get crossed, things that are not truthful get crossed, and it just makes things way more difficult unnecessarily, right? Okay, couple more comments, guys, and then we will go back to the content. Yeah. Sambuca, I'm just reading something that you said. Bear with me as I try to get back to the meat of the comments. Tab C, hello, welcome to the chat. It's good to have you here tonight. Tab says, yes, this problem with people and life right now, learned helplessness, cause people keep getting knocked down. And every time they get back up, someone else or something else is there to knock you back. Yeah, it does feel like that, right? Every time you try to go forward, you go backwards. If you're in a very toxic family dynamic, you're going to constantly feel like you're going forward and backwards, which is why some people go no contact, because it stops that merry-go-round, right? It gives you a little bit of control where you feel like you haven't had that, you know? Yeah. Is it lease? Can I say lease? Oh, geez, I'm going to mess this up. Lee Skyroy? Yeah. Can I say Lee Skyroy? Hello. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you tonight. Lee Skyroy says, I'm literally going through this after my dad died. I'm so sorry for your loss. That's not easy to deal with. She says, my mom, sister, and brother outcast me. They want to blame me for my dad's death. He died of pancreatic cancer. 2025 was crazy. Yeah, I'm sure. That's really difficult. That's difficult. My goodness, I'm so sorry. Nobody wants to be blamed for somebody else's death, and especially their own parents' death, right? That's a huge accusation. Huge. Alex Cecile, it's good to see you back. Welcome back. She says, Alex is saying that I am preparing for my escape. I understand. I totally understand. Angela asks me, what do you do about narcissistic family members who violate your boundaries to gossip about your life? Well, here's what I say. Try to tell them absolutely nothing. The less they know, the better. You know, I will tell you that in my own personal life, I am the most private individual that you will probably ever know who is on YouTube. Years ago, my coworker said to me, and he and I still remain friends to this day. He said to me, when we both worked in a residential treatment facility together, we spent 5 years together working in an RTF, a residential treatment facility. He said, I have known you literally. I was resigning from the RTF. He's like, I literally have known you for 5 years. And I don't know anything about your personal life. And I'm like, because that's the way I'm going to keep it. So I do not tell too many people my personal life. I'm rather authentic and sincere in my interactions, but you're not going to know about those things that I hold really close and dear unless I feel that you have earned that place in my life. Does that make sense? And even with my own family members, if you are a family member to me, that doesn't give you an automatic right to know what it is that's going on in my personal world. I may or may not tell you, what's going on. You may or may not know, right, that I'm doing A, B, or C. You may not even know that I'm working there. You may not even know, I just noticed my light's not on. You may not even know that I have this health condition. You may not even know that I'm moving to this location, right? Like, I don't tell everything. I may share certain things, and there's a strategy to that. And there's a comfort level that's earned over time that allows me to do that with you, but I don't share a lot. So, Angela, you might want to take on that kind of an attitude, and you may want to take on that kind of a disposition that you have to earn your space in my world to know more about me. I'm not going to tell you everything. To me, that is the best way to manage narcissistic family members. Tell them absolutely nothing. And also, too, be careful with the people in your family that has a communication with your narcissistic family member, because whatever you tell that other family member is likely to get around to the narcissistic family member. So you may want to practice being strategic about what they know and what they don't know, and it's all up to you on how much you want to share with them or not. So that's the best way I would say to deal with them, Okay, Lori, it's good to see you, my friend. Welcome back tonight. Lori says, starting a time for talking that works for you, but the person disregard those boundaries and reaches out after the designated time has been stated. Yeah, I guess you're just saying that has happened, Lori? Stating a time for talking that works for you, but the person disregard those boundaries and reaches out after the designated time has been stated. Yeah, I can see that. That's where you want to get on the same page with them, Yeah, that's where you want to get on the same page with them and say, is there any reason why we're outside of what we agreed to? Captain Commenter says, my twisted sister's boundary with our mom was, if you divorce dad, you'll barely see me again. Oh, I see what you mean. Thank you for clarifying that, Captain Commenter. Yeah, that's totally unfair. It sounds to me, if she said, I think the bigger issue here is your sister has some deep-seated issues. I think I may have said that before, that she sounds like she needs her own treatment. If mom has to get away from dad because dad's unhealthy, or she feels like, okay, it's time for a divorce, then that's mom's need, right? And she has to do what she has to do. Sister needs to step back and focus on her own life, right? And supporting mom where mom needs to be supported. So I think the bigger issue here, though, Captain Commenter, is if she really did say this verbatim, if you divorce dad, you'll barely see me again. I don't know the situation, but I think that's a very calculated, manipulative thing to say. And if I heard that come from the lips of my daughter, I would be absolutely devastated to hear that my daughter is that manipulative. I'm going to leave it at that, Captain Commenter. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, guys, let's get back into the content. Boundaries. Let me give you the different types of boundaries and the different type of boundaries that you are likely to have in a toxic family dynamic. So enmeshed boundaries, there's a such thing known as diffuse boundaries. Okay, I'm going to add this to the chat box. It's called diffuse boundaries or enmeshed. What happens with these boundaries? Well, there's usually no clear boundaries or what's the word? No clear separation. That's the word I'm looking for. There's usually no clear separation, right? Are these my feelings or my mom's feelings? Are these my feelings or my dad's feelings, right? So enmeshed. Privacy equals betrayal in these particular families, right? So privacy equals betrayal. Okay, in this kind of a boundary. So let's say in a family where there's enmeshed boundaries, everybody's too close, right? If you say, I need my boundary, I need my personal space, I need you to knock on my door before you come in, I need you to ask to meet with me before you just show up, I need you to call me and text me if you're on your way to my house before just showing up and knocking on the door. That request for space often feels like betrayal to a family that has enmeshed boundaries. The other kind of boundary is conditional. So conditional boundaries. We just talked about it yesterday. Remember, guys? Conditional. What did we talk about yesterday? Conditional love, deceptive affection, deceptive love, right? Conditional boundaries, same exact thing. There's often strings attached to the boundary. So strings are attached. You do this for me. I do this for you. That's the attitude. I do this for you. You do this for me, right? The other boundary is invasive. So invasive boundaries. I don't like those. Everything feels like you're being interrogated. So you're being interrogated. Where were you? Why would you go there? Why are you talking to him? Who is he? You've never talked to me before about him. What's his name? How old is he? Who is she? Are they married? Why would you be talking to them? Why'd you choose them as friends? Where do they live? What jobs do they work? Do they have children? Right? And it just feels like constant bombarding of questions and being interrogated, right? Absolutely no privacy. No privacy whatsoever. None. There's also inconsistent boundaries. Have you seen this in your family? What was acceptable yesterday is no longer acceptable today. Right? What was acceptable yesterday is not today. I called you for Christmas yesterday to wish you a Merry Christmas. Now I'm sending you a text for New Year's and you don't respond. Right? Inconsistent boundaries. Rules change based on your family's mood. Sure, I'll loan you that $100. Not a problem. I'll loan you that $100. Tomorrow comes. When did I tell you I was going to loan you $100? I would never tell you that. Right? You may mistake that for lying. You may mistake that for, pulling back and not wanting to share or give. But the reality is this, it's inconsistent boundaries. That's really what it is. They don't know how to remain consistent, right? There are also rigid boundaries in dysfunctional families. What are rigid boundaries? Emotional coldness. We talked about that yesterday too. Emotional coldness. Have you ever had a parent like this? Or have you had a parent like this? Or have you ever seen a parent like this? Don't touch me. I don't like hugs. I don't like physical touch. Don't touch me. I had that one time as a therapist. I was working in a residential treatment facility. And this residential treatment facility back in, I think it was 2018 when I started, or I was leaving in 2018. I had a family that came in, cute little girl, sweet as a button, but she was adopted. And she went through so much sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, that she had to go into the residential treatment facility because her life was just flipped upside down. She was so emotionally distraught and just so overwhelmed about everything. And her adopted parents couldn't tolerate her behavior anymore. So her adopted parents said to me, we don't know what to do with her. We don't understand why she's crying all the time and depressed all the time and so angry. So they were in a session with me. I'm talking to the little girl. She was so starved for love. She liked me immediately. I told her, I'm going to be your therapist while you're in the program. And she's like, yay. She was so happy. And I was shocked she was happy. Kids like you right away if you're authentic, And I said, well, I'm glad that you like me. And she's like, yeah. And I started asking her questions, how old she was and what she likes to do and so forth. And this poor little girl, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to sit on the floor because I don't like towering over you, you know? And she's like, okay. So I sit on the floor with her and we're talking and I'm talking to adopted parents. And she comes over, I'm talking to her adopted parents, I'm taking notes and I'm listening. And she comes over and sits directly on my lap, you know? And I know what that language says. I know what that language is. That language is, I've been abused. I'm scared. I don't understand my boundary. I don't understand boundaries. I've been violated. I like you. I feel safe with you, but I don't know what's appropriate. Right. And so I had to kind of maneuver that in a way that was loving, you know? And so I hugged her. I said, Miss Timmer's got to have both of her hands so I can take notes. And she's like, okay. And she gets up, you know, and that was a very nice way that I kind of smoothed that over. But then she goes over to her adopted mom, goes over to her adopted dad, and she tries to communicate with them in the same way. And guess what adopted mom did? Nope, don't touch me. And the little girl starts like smiling a certain way and she sheepishly smiles. And her adopted mom says, you know the rules. You know the rules. And she's pointing at her. And I said to the adopted mom, I said, do you communicate with her like that all the time? And she says, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're very raw. We're very honest in my household. She knows not to touch me. I don't like physical touch. I says, oh, I see. Mm-hmm. And she's been with your family for how long? She says 5 years. I says, oh, I see. Mm-hmm. Do you think that has had an impact on her? No, why would it? And then we went on from there, you know. And I eventually said, you know, you guys need to get into your own therapy as well because something is wrong here. But it's what we call rigid boundaries. And adopted mom and adopted dad definitely had rigid boundaries, and it was not good for this little girl. Very cold, very inconsistent, very much don't touch me kind of a demeanor. And it came off not so much as a boundary. It came off as a dislike, right? It came off as a rigid dislike. Don't touch me kind of a thing, right? And that can send a message to the psyche that I am worthless, that I am not lovable, that I am not acceptable. And so it's this kind of like this dismissed affection. It's an opportunity. And that's what I ended up explaining to the family at a later time, that you missed an opportunity. It's an opportunity for affection, and you missed that. And especially for your family as an adopted family, take every opportunity as an opportunity to build, not tear down. So her family ended up getting in trouble. And that little girl is no longer with that family. It's probably a good thing. But they very much had rigid boundaries. On top of that is this boundary that is, let me hit the okay button on this. So those are boundaries within a toxic family dynamic. There are boundaries that are seen as disloyalty. So if you say, I need you to knock on my door before you come in, I need you to text me before you show up in front of my front door, I need you to stop talking about my marriage to everybody in the family, I'm sharing it with you, I don't want you to share it with everybody in the family. In a toxic family dynamic, it comes off as disloyalty, right? That's not what you're trying to do. But in a dysfunctional dynamic, you're supposed to shut up and go along, right? To them, to family members, it comes off as disloyalty. The other issue in these kind of families is there's kind of like this rigid family hierarchy. So if somebody's up here, your sibling is here, and you're supposed to be the black sheep on the bottom, your boundaries are not going to be respected, right? So research in psychology suggests that if you're on the bottom of the totem pole, if you will, in the family dynamic, you should not expect other family members in that, in that lineage or that lineup to respect you if you're at the bottom of the totem pole, right? These kind of families also struggle with narcissistic personality traits and the authoritarian style. Authoritarian personality style is Hitler-like behavior, right? Coldness, aloofness, and do as I tell you disposition. That's what you're going to get in a family dynamic where boundaries are disregarded. You're going to get that Hitler kind of mentality. Do as I tell you to do. I don't listen to you. You listen to me, right? Don't speak unless you're spoken to. Don't ask me to knock on your door. I'm just going to kick the door down and come in. You know, have you ever had a situation where your door was threatened to be taken off the hinges as an adolescent? Sometimes I have parents come in and they say to me, she won't let me in her room, so we took the door off the hinges. She doesn't have a bedroom door. Jeez. You know, when that happens, I'm like, oh, do we have to do this? You know, to a certain extent, it's like, don't take the door off the hinges. You know, that's an invasion of privacy. A child deserves privacy. Now, if they're in the room doing things that's dangerous or inappropriate, or it's going to put them in harm's way, then I totally get that. But as a punishment to remove the door from the hinges, absolutely not. I think that's absolutely insane. That should not happen. But it does happen in an authoritarian, Hitler-like kind of a family dynamic, right? There's a lot of psychological intrusion within these kind of family dynamics. They kind of impede upon you, or they get into your mind, right? Or they seep into your life somehow. There's no, I understand, like, here's my boundary. I respect your boundary. No, they want to get inside your world, get inside your mind, peek into your world, see what you're feeling and thinking. It's very, what's the word, guys? Stripping, right? Have you ever been there where you feel like you're being stripped, and you just want to cover up? You're like, oh my God, this person's like stripping me with all these questions and the way they're looking at me and wanting me to tell them things, right? Ignored boundaries are structural. They are relational. I think I said this at the beginning, and they are role-based, which means ignored boundaries function within a dynamic. It's a family dynamic. Ignored boundaries are, not just a thing that happens. It is the family dynamic. It is the relationship. It is the role that you're in. You're the black sheep. You're the scapegoat. You're also going to experience lack of boundaries, because that's what comes with the black sheep and the scapegoat role, a disregard for your boundaries. On top of that, ignored boundaries is structural. That is the family. So you're not going to have privacy. You're not going to have respect of your space or your boundaries, because that's the family dynamic. That's exactly what we are. We care nothing about boundaries, space, or privacy. It's so sad, right? Favoritism happens in these family roles. Maybe your older brother, who's the hero, or your older sister, who's the hero, gets their boundaries respected, but don't you ask. They're going to be respected, but not you. That's not how that goes. Research in psychology that talks about toxic family dynamics, it also suggests that the family system is chaotic. It's chaotic. And chaos means mom is over there doing something, dad's over there doing something, kids are all over the place, boundaries are all over the place. Nobody's, falling in line with the rules or the expectations of the system. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Literal chaos, right? There's also poor identity development in these families. Poor identity development. How can you have an identity that is growing in a healthy way when the very thing that you need, which are boundaries, to develop an identity is ignored? You have to have boundaries respected in order to develop an identity, right? You have to. If you don't have boundaries, then you can't really identify who you are. So identity development is often, non-existent in these particular families. Unfortunately, learned helplessness, we talked about it earlier. That's another thing research and psychology suggests you're likely to deal with for many years, not just as a young child, not just as a teenager, but all throughout adult life. And learned helplessness in a variety of capacities, in regards to work, in regards to marriage and love life, in regards to friendships, in regards to family. It's going to hit you in a little bit of everywhere. Doesn't mean you're stuck there. With the right amount of help and treatment, you can come out of it. But research in psychology does suggest learned helplessness can follow you for a very long time. What happens to your family when you put up a boundary? What's wrong? Here's what I saw in the research. If you are dealing with a family, I'm gonna list this in the chat box. I'm gonna list this in the chat box. So what happens when you put up a boundary? What's the impact to your family? When toxic family, dysfunctional family, when you put up a boundary? Okay. Number one thing I saw in the research is personality disorders. And we're talking cluster B, are offended by boundaries. Okay. Cluster B, personality disorders, are offended by boundaries. Narcissism is in cluster B. Antisocial personality disorder is in cluster B. Sociopathy. Borderline personality disorder is in cluster B, right? So borderline personality, at the core of the diagnosis, is a fear of abandonment. Sometimes fear of abandonment can lead the person to do manipulative things to keep you from walking away or abandoning them or disliking them. Sometimes they also split you. So they idolize you and then devalue you all at the same time. You're so wonderful. I love you. You're everything. You're great. Don't ever leave me. You're everything I've ever wanted. You make one small mistake. I hate you. I can't stand you. Get out of my life. You're nothing but a mistake, right? I know you've experienced it. You have to have experienced it at some point in your life. It's idolizing you, devaluing you, idolizing you, devaluing you, right? Borderline personality can sometimes be, depending on the person, everybody's different with the diagnosis. But if you have somebody that tends to idolize and then devalue, boundaries can kind of get skewed with a person who has borderline personality. So sometimes it can feel like they're running all over your boundaries, right? So some of the research in psychology suggests this. People with borderline personality disorder, they fear abandonment. So what do they do to keep you from abandoning them? Well, they may constantly text you or call you or email you. They may stalk you. They may harass you, right? They may constantly increase their presence in your life, suffocate you, totally bypass your boundaries, your rules, your barriers, to where you start feeling suffocated, right? And the minute you put up a boundary, bing, now you've hurt them, you've abandoned them, you've wounded them. And guess what happens when you do that? Total retaliation, right? And so there's the impact of your boundary on somebody, not all, but some people with borderline personality disorder. There's the trigger. You've triggered them. So now they're probably going to stalk you. They're going to get upset. They're going to be emotional. They're probably going to retaliate in some form or fashion, right? It's a given. It's a given sometimes. So there's one piece of the puzzle. Another cluster B is antisocial personality disorder. If the person is on the high end of the spectrum and they're a psychopath or a sociopath or a psychopath, I'm sure you can imagine these kind of individuals. You put up a boundary, they're going to act like, who do you think you are? I can one up you. I'm going to do one better than you. And it becomes a competition. If the person has a Machiavellian kind of an edge to them, they're going to do whatever they want to do. They're going to minimize you, mock you, laugh at you, try to make a fool out of you. They're going to rewrite your boundary. They're going to deny your boundary, walk all over your boundary, right? Consider a boundary like a protection from abuse order. We all know that a protection from abuse order, a PFA, doesn't always keep an abuser, a stalker, away from you. Because sometimes what they do is, okay, they're served, They know they're not to come within so many feet of you. But here's where the game starts. They know they're not supposed to come within so many feet of you, but they do. Why? Because sometimes it's a game and it's a fun game and they love the game. And so they're going to do what they want to do. They're going to walk all over that PFA. As a matter of fact, they know they were just served today at 5 p.m. Here we are at 9 p.m. and I'm knocking on the door because guess what? I don't care about that piece of paper. Right? So if you have a Machiavellian personality or a sociopath personality, a psychopath personality, they're going to walk all over your boundary. They're not going to care. You know, a narcissist, they're not going to care either. You're not going to wound their ego. They're not going to let you do that. You're not going to cause a narcissistic injury for them. So they're going to do whatever it takes, right? But that's the backlash, right? For putting up a boundary with a person who has a personality disorder. Attachment trauma. Okay, put up a boundary with somebody that has attachment trauma. That's going to be a little bit difficult for you to do because attachment trauma is deep, right? And so, you know, you have a family member who's had traumatizing relationships. Maybe they have had a traumatizing upbringing. You try to put up a boundary with them. They're either going to take it personal. They're going to cry. They're going to feel like you don't love them. They're going to spread rumors in the family. Maybe they're even going to attempt or threaten suicide. They may stop talking to you. These are the consequences. And I'm just giving them to you as the research is kind of highlighting them. These are the consequences of putting up boundaries in a dysfunctional family. You are likely to experience these things as a result, right? And so if you have somebody in your family that has attachment trauma, get ready for some of the theatrics because you may have to deal with it as well. I also forgot to mention histrionic personality. That's also a cluster B. Histrionic personality disorder is, you know, think of the biggest, loudest, most flamboyant person in your life. They're loud. They are theatrical. They should have been opera singers or, you know, they should have been actresses or actors because they are emotionally driven. They are loud. They are boisterous. They are out there. They like bright colors. They are always seen and heard, right? Sometimes if you have a person who is histrionic and you put a boundary up, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to get louder. They're going to get more flamboyant. They're going to get more intimidating. You know, they're not going to go somewhere and sit down. They're going to get louder. As a matter of fact, they may go to the news and tell the news who you are and what you've done. And then if they can't get on the news, they're going to go to the newspaper and they're going to put something in the newspaper against you, you know, and you'll see it on Sunday when you get the paper to read with your coffee. You know, that's the kind of people we're talking about here, the histrionic personality. Also, too, you know, they may try to bend your arm. They may try to bend your arm. Right? Because if they can get you to say, you know what, I'm not going to put up a boundary, they win, you know? So they may try to bend your arm a few times. Don't put up that boundary, you know? Or they may try to intimidate you. That's another thing. They may try to intimidate or control you to avoid the boundary, right? I'm sure you've experienced this. I'm sure you have. They also may have a dependent personality. I can't do anything without you. I can't make any decisions without you. You try to put up a boundary with a person like that, oh my God, it's going to be chaos, right? Especially if they can't make a decision without you. You know, don't call me at 1 a.m. Don't call me at 1 a.m. I just had a client that one time. Do not call me at 1 a.m. unless it's an emergency. I once had a client, I'm going to say years ago, I had just resigned from the RTF, the residential treatment facility. I went into a group private practice and I had a client, very clingy, very emotional, diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, had some narcissistic personality traits, and had severe depression. Tons of suicide attempts, a lot of manipulative behavior, called me at 1:45 a.m. on a Saturday night. You want to know what she wanted? You don't want to know what she wanted. Miss Tamara, she left a voicemail because I refused to answer. I let her go to my voicemail so I could kind of screen if it was an emergency or not. It was not an emergency. Miss Tamara, something you said to me in session kind of got me thinking that maybe I need to start dating again. And I think you've cracked the code for me. So I've been sitting here on a dating site. I'm going to put my information on a dating site, and I owe that to you. Thank you for helping me figure out what I need to do to move forward. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you, but I just wanted to let you know that you helped me get going again. But I'll see you Monday, because she was going to see me Monday. For some reason, that couldn't wait until Monday. So Monday came, and I said to her, you know what? I'm so happy you feel like that was a breakthrough, but please do not call me at 1:45 a.m. on a Saturday unless it is an emergency. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I says, no, it's okay. I understand, but I would like to warn you ahead of time that, when you call me on a Saturday at 1:45 a.m. in the morning, it causes me to wonder if it's an emergency. And so, I don't want to have to be jarred like that, wondering if it's an emergency. So please don't do that. If it's something of this magnitude, email me and I'll get back to you Monday, or I may get back to you the next day. But please don't do that unless it's an emergency. And she says, oh, I won't do that again. I'm so sorry, that kind of thing. So you may get a very dependent personality. And I really do think she was a dependent personality. You put up a boundary with a dependent personality, it's going to be a really difficult experience to try to put up that boundary. Loss of control. They are going to experience loss of control. So they're going to push back, right? They don't want to lose that control they have over you, right? So they're going to push back. You're in their way. So when you put up a boundary, you're getting in their way, right? They're not going to like that. So just be ready for the backlash. So I'm going to say, be ready for the consequences. They don't like you to say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. They don't want to hear that. So be ready for the consequences. They're going to push back. They don't like the fact that these kind of individuals do not like the fact that boundaries govern interaction. So they don't like that boundaries govern interaction. They don't like that, right? You don't like the fact that boundaries govern interaction. So what are they going to do? Because they don't like that boundaries govern interaction. They're going to try to overstep your boundaries as many times as they can, right? So what you want to do is reinforce your boundary every single time. Okay, so you're going to overstep that boundary. I'm going to raise the bar a little higher. You're going to try to overstep that, then I'm just going to raise it a little higher, right? And so I've had to do that in the past. You're going to call me at 1:45 in the morning on a Saturday, and it's not an emergency. I promise I won't do it again. Does it again? Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I forgot. Next time you do it, I'm going to have to charge you. Did it a third time. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. What did I do? Charge you $50. I won't do it again. I promise. Does she ever do it again? Nope. Didn't do it again. Why? That slap on the wrist hurt. Who the heck wants to spend $50? Right? For a false alarm because I'm abusing the fact that I have my therapist's phone number. No. So they don't like that boundaries govern interactions, right? So, be ready for them to act a particular way, but you want to raise the bar each time they disregard it, right? So raise the bar. You disregard it again, raise the bar again. You're going to disregard that. I'm going to raise it again until you get the point, right? And one last thing in this category, according to the research, is they experience these kind of dysfunctional family dynamics. Individuals within it experience anxiety and uncertainty. You set a boundary, total anxiety, right? They don't like having to follow the rules and boundaries. A family dynamic that is totally toxic, dysfunctional, and out of, good communication skills, they don't know how to adjust to rules, boundaries, limits. The list goes on. Structure. So, so they're going to experience, the family dynamic's going to experience anxiety. It's going to experience uncertainty. It's going to push back, right? You just have to be ready for it, right? This is a little bit of an interesting topic, right? But it's overwhelming. I'm scratching the surface with the psychology of ignored boundaries. If you want me to talk more about boundaries, let me know. I can do a video for you on boundaries and give you some tips and tools on how to manage family members who cross your boundaries. I would be happy to do a video on that. So I'm going to go to the chat box, see what you guys are saying. We're going to go ahead and wrap up after that. All right, guys. Let me see. What have I missed? I feel like I've just been sinking in the chat box. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wait. Okay. Nancy R. It's good to see you. Welcome back tonight. Hope you're doing well. Campsite. Hello, my friend. It's good to see you. Welcome. Campsite asks the question, what is control without enmeshment? Oh, I'm not sure I understand. What is control without enmeshment? What is control without enmeshment? Do you mean, okay, here's what I'm going to do, because my brain has now been stretched and it's going 20 million different ways. Bring that back to me in a way that break it down to me so I understand what you mean. Do you mean control within a family? Do you mean control between two people? Then I'll be happy to answer that. Or if you don't get back to me tonight, then actually, Jovial just said, Tamara, stop. I have no idea what he means, if that's what you're referring to. Oh, campsite. Okay. You said flat out control without, crap. I missed it. Okay, wait a minute. Let me go all the way down to the bottom. Hold on. Guys, I told you, if you lived with me, you'd be laughing every day, all day. I can't make this stuff up. Okay. Wait a minute. Let me go all the way back. Hold on. I am so far back in the comments. Okay, there we go. Okay. Wait. Okay. Campsite says flat out control without enmeshment. Literally the parent enmeshing with the child. Thank you, Campsite. I just saw you break it down. Okay, I swear it's not you, it's me. Okay, Campsite says, so is there an instance of a parent controlling a child without actually enmeshing? Yes. Okay, now it's clicking. Yes. So a parent does not have to be enmeshed with the child in order to control them. No, a child can be controlled by the parent without the parent being so interconnected with the child that the child doesn't know, are my feelings and thoughts my mom's? Is my mom's thoughts and feelings her own? Or are we sharing the same thoughts and feelings, or what? Right? So the question is, so is there an instance of a parent controlling a child without actually enmeshing? Yes. I'm trying to think of an example to give you. A parent could, for example, control a child's emotions towards the other parent. We would call that parental alienation. So the parent can control the child's emotions towards the other parent, by feeding the child all of these negative thoughts, all of these negative stories, all of these negative experiences. The parent can also wait for the father to mess up and make some mistakes and then point out to the child, hey, look, this is what your dad has done. Isn't this wrong? And highlighted in a way to make dad look bad, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that the parent is enmeshed with the child. I hope that made sense. Yeah, my brain is on shutdown mode, guys. So I hope that made sense, Campsite. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate you. Okay. All right. Let me get to all the rest of the comments here. Bear with me because I'm very much behind. My friend Smita says, people are tribal and saying family is everything, keeps people in line. It's a line that others are placing on all of us. Yeah, the family is everything dynamic is a societal ideology and it's cultural. You know, the Native American culture, the African American culture, the Hispanic culture, the Asian culture, all believe that family is everything and everybody else kind of falls in line believing the same thing. It's a sociological concept that is limited by reality, right? And reality says family isn't everything all the time because not everybody has a family. And those who do have a family are sometimes very much harmed by their family, right? What about the family who have sexually violated another family member, right? Is family everything in that situation? What about the family member who has had an affair with somebody else's spouse or gone out of the family and done something ungodly, right? So is family everything in that situation? What if you had a wonderful family and everybody dies and passes away? Is your life not important then? Is family everything and you are nothing without your family at that point? So once you begin to delve into the psychology of the ideology, then you can understand that, wait a minute, this is one limited kind of a concept. And I need to adjust the way that I'm seeing this, because in a sense, the family is everything ideology sets you up for failure. Because here's what we do. The family is everything ideology is up here, right? We kind of esteem it quite high. And so here we are with our families, right? What do? We try to do any and everything to make sure that we meet that esteemed expectation of family is everything. And we're trying to get up here and reach that family is everything ideology. And guess what's happening? Reality is not letting some people do that, right? Because they don't have that kind of a family. And so then it starts to hurt. It stings because the reality of it says, I don't have that. I don't have that. Right. And so then you have to readjust your mindset. And for a lot of people, that's a really, really, really hard thing to do. It's like a cookie cutter kind of a idea. And we have to readjust that cookie cutter idea to fit reality, because that's an incorrect way to look at reality, right? It's like the white picket fence idea. It's very, very limited. Actually, Jovial says so many more people are going no contact with their families. Yeah, there's some research studies that suggest more kids are actually going even no contact with their parents when their parents are unstable and not very healthy as well. So things are shifting. You know, I think people are becoming a little bit more educated about family and family dynamics and children and their parents and, you know, what's real family and what's not. And perhaps that's a good thing. You know, the fantasy does need to shift. Okay. Okay, let's keep moving, guys. I'm just looking at some comments. The Good Glow, it's good to see you, my friend. Welcome back tonight. I hope you're doing well. The Good Glow says Mother's Day is overly commercialized. I agree with that. I mean, I think Mother's Day is only for a select few who has a really good mom. So for me, I have a really good mom. So Mother's Day is wonderful for me. I get to celebrate a good mom. However, Mother's Day wasn't always good for my mother in celebrating my grandmother because they weren't always close. So I think Mother's Day is more of like a subjective experience, and it is commercialized. I agree with that. Many of my adult clients do not have positive relationships with their mothers. So, that's another ideology, that's a cookie cutter ideology that needs to shift with the zeitgeist, right? The spirit of the times. We're in a different era, excuse me. We're in a different era. And so, we kind of need to change how we're seeing things, right? All right, let's keep moving. Joshua Ward, it's good to have you. Welcome to the channel. Joshua Ward says, "Do you know why it seems like my father's female family counterparts have always seemed like they don't like my mom, and she's never done anything to them?" Well, Joshua, I can't answer that question because I don't have the details to give you that kind of an answer. I can say that it could be a personality clashing, it could be a cultural clashing, it could be something that maybe your mom has done to them that you're not aware of, or that your mom's not aware of. There's a variety of reasons, right? It could be as simple as a political, religious, cultural, or just a personality clashing too, yeah, I wouldn't be able to give you a concrete, here's what's the issue. All right, let's keep moving, guys. Kayla Sherman, it's good to have you. Welcome to the channel. Kayla Sherman says, my family member crossed boundaries from prison after helping him for years with his music career. No matter how much I help, it's not enough. So I said, I need time. And he said, something's out of line. So my family member crossed boundaries from prison after helping him for years with his music career. No matter how much I help, it's not enough. So I said, I need time. And he said, something's out of line. Okay. I'm kind of blurry or nebulous on what that means, but let me just say this, that if you recognize that no matter how much I help, it's not enough, that might be a sign it's time to stop, right? So in a sense, your answer is right there. You don't even have to ask him. You don't even have to wonder, right? Maybe no matter how much I help him, it's not enough. Maybe that's a message, right? I'll leave you with that. Maybe that's a message. I'll leave you with that one. Maya Goya, hello, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you tonight. Maya Goya says, Tamara, my aunt can't accept me, but when I disappear, she wants me back. Oh man, that's rough. Yeah, I don't know what that dynamic is. Isn't that interesting? That there's some psychology to that. I would literally chat GBT, Google that, see what comes up. There's something there. Maybe when you go away, she realizes I need you, and then she pulls you back in. Or maybe her life is lonely and she recognizes I need you in it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Angela, I love that. I'm going to star that comment in the chat box. I love that. Nancy says, I learned so much. Thank you, Tamara. You're amazing. Thank you so much for that. That's so sweet. And so glad you learned a lot. That's awesome. Good to hear that. All right, let's keep moving, guys. Hi, my friend. It's good to see you. Muchetti. Is that how you say it? Muchetti. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you tonight. All right, let's keep moving, guys. I want to make sure I at least get most of you in the chat tonight if I can. NGO, I didn't get a chance to welcome you. It's good to see you. Welcome back tonight. Fluffy Falconet or Falconete. I think that's usually how I say it. Happy New Year to you. It's good to see you. Guys, we got to wrap up here. I'm on here a little long tonight. All of us. Sapphire Live Forever. Hello. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you as well. You're a newbie. Dennis Robinson, it's good to see you. Welcome back. Honeybee, it's good to see you. Welcome to the channel. Falcon Britt, hello, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. Falcon Britt says, people who truly have narcissistic personality disorder get so triggered by boundaries. How dare you try to be a separate person, much less one with rights? Absolutely. So clinical narcissistic personality disorder is a series of clinical symptoms that kind of brings them to a level of, I can't function in society, unless I get this deep-seated need of mine filled every single time. Every single time. I have to have a deep-seated need filled with clinical narcissism. You know, if a person doesn't have clinical symptoms of narcissism, we call that subclinical. And subclinical, I'm going to put it in the chat box so you have this. Subclinical symptoms of narcissism are symptoms that are about 50% clinical, but not quite there yet. That's why we call it subclinical. Not quite there yet. It's almost there, but we're not quite there yet. So a person who has subclinical symptoms of narcissism, you're going to see some narcissistic behaviors, and they probably will suffer what we call a narcissistic injury, where it's like you're stepping on their toes, right? Now, true clinical narcissism, you're going to see a full-blown heart attack with a person who has a narcissistic personality that's clinical. They can't tolerate that boundaries govern interactions. They can't tolerate that. They have a ton of psychological entitlement. That's just who they are. That's just who they are, right? So my friend Smita says, the chat is popping, isn't it? I love it so much. I love it so much. Thank you, Flower. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. NGO, let me answer your question. NGO says, I think I asked this before, but I'll ask again. Why are narc parents, why are they obsessed with the scapegoat's companion or relationship? I mean, it's not a universal thing. I'm guessing this is what, personal, NGO, or something that you've maybe witnessed or seen. You know, maybe it's because that partner or spouse is taking their place. It's additional competition, you know, maybe that spouse or companion is going to, you know, awaken that child to something. I don't know. There could be a variety of reasons why that spouse or companion becomes that piece of contention, you know, between the child and the parent. I don't have enough details to really give you that information, but you know, there's a few answers that I can give you there. Yeah, I'm going through my mind trying to like pull as much information as I can think of. Yeah, we need more research. I'm just going to put it that way. We need more research on that. Yeah. Share Ives. Woo, I thought I said share lives. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. And thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Thank you. Let's keep moving, guys. Thank you very much, Nancy R. That's so good to see. Can't sign off without welcoming you. You're new here. It's Liba Trinaba. Can I say that? Liba Trinaba. If I messed it up, I'm so sorry. Welcome to the channel. It's so good to have you. Good to see you. See, I didn't miss you. I saw you. Tamika Brown, it's good to see you back, my friend. Welcome. Tamika Brown says, my in-laws are like this. I am firm on my boundaries with them and I'm low contact with them. Yeah. Yeah, you have to be firm. Let me also say, if you have boundaries with people who are unhealthy in your life, you may have to reassert your boundaries, right? Assert your boundaries repeatedly throughout your life if you have to, right? Because some people think, well, that was only for a season, that was only for a time, you know, she's probably over it, or he's probably done setting that boundary, right? You may have to reset that boundary and reset it again, to let them know that I am not playing with you. This is a serious thing. I'm putting my boundary and I'm keeping it here, right? So you may have to reassert your boundary over time. Ellie Wen, that is hilarious. Did you just say that? Oh my goodness. Ellie Wen says, my family is so dysfunctional. The whole zip code relocated. Okay, I don't know whether to laugh or shut the chat down at this point. That is so hilarious. Ellie Wen, I'm going to star that comment in the chat. That is the comment of the night. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that. And I will give you all the credit. Ellie Wen, you're amazing. The things between you, who's the other one? Axe to Edge. And there's one more person on here and I don't see them tonight. Captain Commenter, and there's another one. Between you guys and let me say James Mitchell, oh my God, all of you are hilarious. I literally laugh out loud when I go back and look at the chat box. I do. James Mitchell says, I gave all my good years to my whole hyena family. See, there's James Mitchell again. He's hilarious. But now I sit here alone in my first house. No visits for years. It's painful. I'm so sorry. Think of it this way. Is it possible to think of it this way? You have your first home. That is a blessing, right? And you have your first home because maybe you had some time to think because you put up some boundaries with your family, right? That maybe gave you the strength that you need to buy your first home or get your first home, right? You have a blessing now to have the very thing that so many people want. Now it's time to continue to move forward in a way that is empowering and focused on continual growth, right? So keep going, right? It's okay. You never know. You may get to a certain point and you can start pulling in new people into your world. You can start pulling in a really good friend, pulling in a really good neighbor, you know? So give yourself some time. Give yourself some time. All right, let's keep moving. I see you guys cracking up about Granny Sarah. Yeah, she used to say, you got to act a fool to catch a fool. Yeah. Sambuca says, we said that in the Caribbean. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, she's not Caribbean, but you know. Lil Johan, you're funny too sometimes. I laugh out loud at you also. Anaphylaxis, is good to see you, my friend. Welcome back. I also see Lady 50 Avenue. Hello, welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up here in just a little bit. I just want to get through a few more comments. MS says, I find it so sad and so difficult to hold my boundaries with family members that don't understand what a boundary is, but I'm holding firm. Yeah, let me kind of validate you there. It's hard to hold the boundary with family members who don't understand, because some family members are so wrapped up and they are psychologically entitled. Their attitude can sometimes be, you're putting up a boundary with moi, with me. You are not. And the reality is, yes, I am. Right? Because you have stepped on my toes, you've crossed my boundary, you have said A, B, and C behind my back, you've done this, you've done that. Yes, I am putting up a boundary. But as you guys already know, sometimes there are those family members, they think that they are too special for you to put up a boundary. And so when they have that kind of psychological entitlement, it may be necessary for you to become a little bit more blatant with your boundary. If not blatant, sometimes you just have to keep reasserting your boundary. And other times it just may be as simple as not responding. Especially if they are a detriment to your mental and emotional health, But you're right, MS, it is very difficult. They have to learn your new language. Does that make sense, guys? They have to learn your new language. And that takes sometimes family quite some time to digest. They have to figure out what it is, Okay, let's keep on. I want to make sure that I get at least a good amount of you guys in before we wrap up. You're very welcome. You're welcome. It's good to see you. Brian McDonald, I don't remember seeing you, so welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. Brian McDonald says, I've just figured out a lot of what is going on with my family, and so much I do not know where to start. I do know the Lord has stepped in for me and no weapon formed. I like that. Do you guys know that scripture verse? It's no weapon formed against me shall prosper. That's what he's quoting, which means that anybody that tries to come against me because I believe in God is not going to be successful, right? That I'm going to be victorious no matter what. I think that's a powerful, powerful scripture verse. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right, let's keep moving, guys. NGO, that is funny but true. NGO says gossipers are equivalent to news reporters. Everything has to be announced. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's so true. Bella Singleton, hello, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. Rachel, good to have you. Welcome to the channel as well. Okay, let's keep moving, guys. Goodness, there is a lot of new people in the chat. I just want to say hello to you, George Diamond. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you with us live tonight. Thank you for that scripture verse, Captain Commenter. God's Daughter on YouTube. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you with us live tonight. Don't try, I'm protected. Ooh, I like that. Hello, and welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. Don't try, I'm protected says people don't like boundaries because they want to be all in your business. That, and again, boundaries govern interactions, privacy, and roles. So if boundaries govern interactions, privacy, and roles, people are not going to like boundaries, right? They don't want to be told what to do. If you watch police body cam videos, do you see how many individuals within our society do not like rules, do not like regulations, do not like boundaries. They don't want to follow the law. They don't want to be held back. They do not want to be told what to do, right? And so the same is true for people who are being asked to abide by boundaries. They don't want to be told this is a boundary. This is not what you're going to do, Unfortunately, there's often retaliation for putting up that boundary, or they completely ignore you and keep doing the same thing, sadly, right? Actually, jovial, yes, thank you for that. Yes, I agree. I agree. Thank you, Lady Sarita. I also see you up there cheering me. I think I said hello to you. Miss Paula Green, it's good to see you back here all the way from London. Totally love London. Most of my views and most of my podcast interviews and engagement as a therapist comes from London and comes from the UK. So I totally love the energy there. I have to go back. I have to actually be able to go there one day. That's on my bucket list, if you will. Ronald Zion, it's so good to have you. I almost lost you in the chat. Welcome back. I like that. He says, my motto is all of my business is none of yours. I love that. I love that. Totally love that. My mom will tell you that I am just such a private person. I don't like people getting into my business. It just irks me. It does. It's like, why are you so concerned? Right? Like get a life, you know? And that's just been who I've been since I was born. I don't like busybodies. I'll put it that way. MNL Odell, it's good to see you. Welcome back tonight. MNL Odell says that's close to the truth, Falcon. Many narcissistic people get stuck emotionally in their toddler years. Yeah, well, I have to say that's true. Yeah, that's true. Tammy Nicely, it's good to see you back tonight. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, little Johanne. I appreciate that. Lynn J, it's good to see you. Welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. All right, guys. I hope I got most of you. I still see some new people in the chat. It's so good to have all the new people, and it's so good to have all the returning people also. It's just a wonderful thing to see. Jay Nash, it's good to have you as well. Welcome to the channel if I haven't welcomed you already. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm so very happy that it's helping you. Guys, let's pause here because we're going to be on here another hour if I don't wrap up here. I'm so happy to have all of you on the channel. For those of you who are not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Stay on with us. More interesting things are coming. You're going to want to be here for next Friday and Saturday's live chats. And Tuesday, I have another awesome video coming up for you. If you have a topic that you want me to consider, feel free to let me know in the chat box once we sign off. I do have a running list of topics from all of you. You guys have basically asked me to talk about everything under the sun. As long as I'm an expert in that area and I've had clinical experience with it and I know the research, I will do a topic or a live chat on it. So let me know. Guys, it was so fun being on here with you. I hope this was a helpful topic. Have a wonderful Saturday night. I will see you guys next week. Good night, guys.